$1,000, and I got another from Xavier's Exponential Office, which is about $1,500. So the total out-of-pocket expense for me was about $1,000 to $1,500, and the total expense for the trip was right around $5,000. So overall, compared to other study abroad experiences, it was pretty cheap, mainly just because I got those scholarships, and also in general, when at Taiwan, everything's very cheap there, so it's very convenient. So my time at NCKU. So while I was studying abroad, I was studying at NCKU, which is National John Kung University. It's located in Tainan, which, if I go back, is one of the main southern cities in Taiwan. And so there, I was required to take 12 credits, but the general structure was that I needed to take a small group class every day along with 3 other elective classes. So the small group class is the main class that you're going to be having when you're there, and that's the class you have every day from Monday to Friday. That's about 12 hours, so my class was from 1 to 3. And then on top of that, you have 3 elective classes, and those are usually about 2 hours each, and those are 1 time a week. So I had one class that was pronunciation. That was on Monday. I had a grammar class, which was on Thursdays, and then I had a Intro to Chinese Conversation class, which was on Fridays. And so you can also take a variety of different types of classes. You are required to, if you're in level A through C, you're required to take at least pronunciation and grammar, but that third elective, you can either have something like intro to conversation. There's other things like calligraphy, Tai Chi, Chinese painting, etc., which are all type of elective classes that you might be able to do. And so where I lived was in a dorm called NCKU, which was called Ching 3. So I had a decent experience there. It was very cheap. It was about $400 something for 2 months, which is really not bad. And so it was it was a dormitory. However, I will say if you go there, part of the caveat to going there is that you have to pay for Wi-Fi in your actual dorm room, and you also have to pay for AC. So you have like an AC card, and you put money on it, and you run AC. And so Tainan is very hot in the summer, just like New Orleans, if not sometimes a little bit hotter and more humid. And so whenever I stepped outside, I was sweating all the time within 5 minutes. So just be wary of that when you have that you're going to need to pay for AC. However, it was kind of nice because there was a library under the dorm, which was usually open 24/7. That had Wi-Fi, air conditioning. You could get your work done. Basically anything you needed to do there, and that was usually open all the time. So it's very convenient to just be able to go downstairs and basically have a 24/7 library that was in the same dorm. Yeah. And so these are some of the places I explored in Taiwan. So here I'm in Taipei in front of, Taipei, basically in front of Taipei 101, which is the tallest building in Taiwan. Here I'm with one of my friends, Sarah. She was also part of the Huayu Best Scholars. She was at Tulane, and this was when we were in Taidong, which is kind of like a southeastern city in Taiwan, and we got surfing lessons here and stuff like that. It was very cool with beautiful beaches and beautiful mountains. Here I'm at Shenong Street with 2 other participants that were also Xavier students. So this one is Tatum, and she was in a different program from us through the Political Language Scholarship in Taipei. But Shekinah was in the same program as me. She also lived in the dorm. And so she was living in the same dorm as I was, and this was in Shenong Street, so this is also in Tainan. Here is, I was at a Buddhist temple called Guanshan, which has a huge, big Buddha statue and a bunch of beautiful art and cultural artifacts. That was in a city called Kaohsiung, which is a little bit to the south of Tainan. And here is Alishan, which is a popular mountain destination to go to because it's hard to see the sunset or the sunrise. But it's actually possible to see it On top of Ali Strong, so it's a popular kind of tourist destination to go to and to like sleep basically on the mountain, and in the morning go and like actually see the sunrise. So this was a picture I took as we were going up the mountain by bus. And so these were all trips that I took on my own free time. These were like weekend trips and stuff that we just planned to go to, so I just ended up going there either with my friends, or this trip was like a day, like a small like day trip that I just took the train to go to, and that was like by myself. But yeah, in general, I got to go to all these places with my friends, and we just planned trips that were really very easy and very convenient to do, because Taiwan's not only a small island, but it also has a pretty decent like public transportation system. So the trains were all like very, very accessible, as well as you know, just being able to take bus rides to places. It wasn't as much of a need to like have a car or have any sort of like really you know, strong means of transportation. On top of that, NCKU also gave me a bike, like a free bike, so I was able to basically bike around to all the food places and bike easily to go from the dorm and back, or really anywhere I needed to go, even going to like one of the beaches in Tainan with this free bike. And so it was very convenient to kind of get around. So in general, the main benefits of the program, the first one I said is learning Chinese. So over the past few years, I've been learning Chinese really inconsistently, really since my freshman year of high school. But I learned so much more in the 2 months while I was there than I have in years of studying Chinese. Your proficiency and fluency just increased massively, and although there's a lot more work that goes into it, because those classes are significantly harder than the Xavier classes, you really get out what you put in. So if you're really working hard in your classes, you will very quickly see your Chinese language skills increase, because you're living in the culture. Every day you're using your Chinese, and so you're growing a lot from that. And so this was most definitely the most beneficial thing when it came to really growing, especially like studying the language and having time to study there was enormously helpful. Another thing that's really convenient is prices. So everything is basically significantly cheaper in Taiwan. So about 30 USD is about 1,000 Taiwan dollars, or Taiwan NTD. And so the conversion rate's very good and very cheap. So for example, things like Ubers are very cheap. They're usually around like 150 to 350 NTD, which is like very, very cheap sometimes. So like maybe $10 USD to get from one part of Tainan to a whole other part of Taiwan, and so in general they're very, very cheap, and there's not a tipping culture there. And so in general, like using Uber, which is like a common app here, of course in the US, was very easy to also use in Taiwan. And then ordering food, things like Uber Eats and stuff like that, it's also very cheap and very easy to do, because not only is the food a lot cheaper, but again, you don't have to tip. There's not a tipping culture, so whatever you order is basically as is there, so you don't have to pay for like necessarily an extra fee that you do here, and so that's very convenient. And the last thing I'd say is experiencing the culture. I think in general, the culture of Taiwan is very different from the US, and so being able to actually stay there, see other people operate, just see like the differences between the culture of the US and the culture of Taiwan is like very different. I think there's a lot of like really cool differences, like how they place more emphasis on public transportation, or kind of how I feel like there's more social harmony overall. It's kind of really different and really interesting to see. And so I think that was something that was definitely a highlight for me. And so yeah, experiencing the culture is kind of a thing that you can't really do unless you go there. And it definitely kind of opens up your eyes to the way that the world really operates. So it's definitely a valuable culture, or a valuable thing to be able to actually study abroad. And so my overall experience, I love my time in Taiwan. It was honestly amazing. I got to meet a bunch of new friends. These are kind of like my closest friends that were also in the program. This is Shekinah, like I said. This is Wei Wei. She's from the University of Auburn. And this is Tanaya. She's from the University of Alabama at Birmingham. So those were like some of my closest friends. This was also a bunch of friends that I met. They're UCI students, University of California, Irvine. There's a lot of people that usually come from Irvine and stuff like that. And so this is when we were on top of Ali Sean. I got to meet them. That was really cool. This is my Chinese teacher, my small group teacher. She's so momentous, like very, very impactful for me learning as much Chinese as I have. So I really appreciate her. She was great. And this is my group, my small group class. This was when we were at one of the palaces or one of like the big main museums in Jai City. And so this was actually a school-sponsored trip and stuff. So a bunch of my classmates got to come and stuff. So we took some cool pictures. So overall, I met a bunch of really cool new people. Had a bunch of amazing different experiences. Learned a lot of Chinese. Ate a lot of really different and really cool food. Something I didn't touch on is like the night markets. Night markets are kind of like a popular place where people will go and get different types of food, and also for relatively cheap too. So there I got to try a bunch of different food that you could probably never get here in the US, or if you can, it's not as authentic. So I got to try a lot of really cool different things that I really enjoyed. And so the main takeaways I have overall, it was an amazing experience, like I said. The places I got to experience were amazing. My Chinese language skills really increased in the span of 2 months. And I think the general value of having just an international experience is really important, just to open up your eyes to see that not everyone operates like the US does, and that not everything we do has to be done that way. And so it's kind of cool to see things being done in different ways and how to see how other people operate and stuff like that. So in general, I think studying abroad is a very important experience, but I also think that studying in Taiwan was just a lot of fun for me, especially since I've been studying Chinese since I was in high school. And so having the opportunity to actually go abroad and meet new friends who I met that were like Taiwanese, friends that were American that I met from different universities, and really having like a very good cultural experience there was great. And on top of that, if you do this program, Zhangla Show will also be there, so it's not like you're just kind of thrown into the wild and you have no support. Zhangla Show is there. There's a lot of people from the CLC office that are there if you need anything. And on top of that, they usually have a bunch of language exchange programs or language exchange events. So for example, I met a high schooler and a different type of language exchange event, and then after that I was able to like meet his family, and we like play a bunch of like sports and stuff like that, like volleyball and basketball, so that was a lot of fun. And then on top of that, I got to meet a language partner from the University of NCKU who was there, his name is Evan. He was a great language partner for me, because if I ever need anything or ever needed to translate anything, he was there. And he was also my age, so it was kind of cool to be able to have somewhat of the same like general world experience, which was really helpful. And it was nice because he took me to see his family, took me out to eat, showed me different places around Tainan. And so overall, it was a very nurturing environment there, and I felt like I was really not only safe, but also supported. So if that's something you're interested in, I highly recommend checking it out.